Hey, folks, just make sure that this connection is working and we get this going. Hope everyone's doing okay. I'm up here in North Texas. Just took my hat off, sorry. Where we've been knocking on doors, hence my nose is real red because it's very cold out there. My fingers feel like blocks of ice. I'm just getting the warmth back into them. But I'm excited to see you all and to be with you and to join Joe Hernandez from Little Joey La Familia, who's going to be our guest right now. We're going to talk about this upcoming election, maybe answer some of your questions, show off this great Calling Texas t-shirt that you can win or be in a drawing for if you join our phone bank, which is a little bit later today, where we're going to be calling on behalf of state house candidates all over the state of Texas. Make sure that we win that Democratic majority that this state needs, and then help further up ballot, including helping Joe Biden become the first Democratic nominee to win the 38 Electoral College votes of Texas in 44 years, which would, more than anything else and more than any other state, decide this election on election night. So this is a big one. And one of the people who has been so inspiring to me on a personal level, certainly from his music, but also his political activism and advocacy, is Little Joe Hernandez. And so I'm going to try to find him and make sure that we're able to bring him on right now. And so, Joe, if you haven't already requested, will you request? Let me see. I don't see the request from Joe yet. Oh, I think I see it there. Here we go. My cold fingers aren't. There we go. Give me just a second, folks. Hey, now we're cooking with gas. Joe, good to see you.
I do have a question, Beto. Why are your nose so red?
Well, I've been outside for the last couple of hours, and we're up here, Joe, in Garland, Texas, and we were knocking on doors, and it was raining at first. And I was using my phone so that I could know what address we were going to knock on next. So I wasn't wearing gloves, and I had a mask over my face. But other than that, I wasn't really staying warm. And I am still, like when you come back inside and for 30 minutes, you're still cold. That's what I feel like right now. Where are you right now?
I'm in my office in Temple. Yeah.
Tell us what it's like in Temple today.
Well, they're having a sunny day. We had a lot of rain overnight, but it cleared up, and it looks like a great day for voting.
Yeah, and we should remind people that's a great thing to say. We should remind people you can vote in any one of the 254 counties of Texas today. It is early voting, and it's early voting through Friday, the 30th of October, this Friday. And in many counties, they make it super convenient. So Harris County, where Houston, Texas is, they're going to have 24-hour voting starting tomorrow.
Oh.
You have drive-through voting. You have a ballot tracking application. You can go to voting super centers like Energy Stadium. So we have a state that tries to make it hard on people, but local election administrators that are making it easy. Joe, I've got to ask you: have you already voted?
Oh yes, my wife and I did our mail ballot voting, so we did that right away, and I hope it's there by now.
That's right.
It's been a couple of weeks. Yeah.
Okay. I bet you they received it already. Let me say this, because I know a lot of people follow you, a lot of people listen to you, a lot of people have been out to see you perform all over the country, many parts of the world, but certainly in Texas, where I've told you this before. I can remember growing up and just the electricity in our community when Little Joey La Familia would show up. And then I saw it for myself on the campaign trail in 2017 and 2018 when you played in the Rio Grande Valley, when you showed up in Austin, when you showed up in San Antonio. And really, folks, I got a lot of credit for going to the 254 counties of Texas. Joe was in many of those counties with us and turning out and exciting people who might not have otherwise voted. But you all may not know this. Little Joe had COVID earlier this year, and so I want to first ask you, tell me how you're feeling, how your family's feeling. Tell us about the health of the Hernandez family.
Well, thank God we're all doing really well. My niece, daughter, my wife, and myself all had COVID at the beginning of July. And it was a rough time for the family, for all of us that, you know, uh, everyone was worried about everyone. But thank God we got through it and we're feeling great and feeling the energy that's happening with the Latino community, which I'm hopefully and hoping to do whatever I can between now and November 3rd to motivate them and get them out there. And I'm hoping that the young Latinos will be involved and engaged enough to help the elderly Latinos that, Beto, being from El Paso and knowing the Chicano, Mexican American culture as well as you do, we still have a problem with the language barrier. And that in turn causes, is a factor why the elderly folks, Latinos, Chicanos, Mexican Americans, shy from voting in many cases. They don't understand, don't speak the language quite that well, and are just intimidated by that fact and don't come out to vote. So I'm hoping that the young generation will not only vote themselves, but help their parents or grandparents or just the elderly community to help them show them how and what to do about voting. And then if they need to be driven and help to get to the polls, they will also participate in doing that, because this is, and we all keep saying that this is the most important election of our lifetime. So we say it and keep saying it because it's true. And for Texas, especially the Hispanic community, we have an incredible opportunity to change some of the things that we're afflicted by, lack of medical care, affordable health care, just so many things. Even in employment, I've been on the road touring for 60 years. Since 1960 I started touring, and so I feel real close, and I feel that I know mi gente, la raza, very well, really well. And being that my dad and mom were from Mexico, but my mom was always interested in politics, and I remember her always saying, hijo, if only I could vote. And it was during the poll tax times, and I remember when, she would talk about having to pay, and as little as it was back then, I don't know if it was $1.50 or $2, but still, for a family like mine, and that was a lot of money back then in those days. So I know the community and the Hispanic community, and I know what their challenges are. So I'm hopeful and that the young Hispanics will get involved, not just voting. That's an obligation, and we need to do that. We have to do that, but helping others, helping the older folks to the polls and show them how and what it is that they need to do, because we got to win this thing. We just have to. I don't know whenever we'll have a better chance than we do now. And I'm excited because it sure feels like Texas is going blue.
It sure does. And it's got a lot to do with people who've been working on it for a long, long time. And I think about all the work that you've done, all the work that groups like the Texas Organizing Project, with whom you were knocking on doors today, have done. the local precinct chairs and county chairs. Joe, I won't have a chance to read to you every comment that's come through, but there's a lot of love on here. I'll read you two that just popped up on my screen. One is from, looks like Joe Lee, says, glad to see you better, Joe, from the Tejano community. And then Oscar Lopez says, hey, Beto, team missed him at the Festival Chicano in Houston this year. And there's a lot of hearts filling the screen. A lot of people are glad to see you, and they're also glad to know that you're well. And I think maybe word has gotten out that you had you had your own struggle with COVID, but that you came through that. And you look good, you sound good. Parece muy, muy fuerte. Let me ask you this. You mentioned the importance of the Latino community. I was just knocking on doors in Garland and mentioned it was really cold out there. And the folks in the neighborhood that I was in were so kind to open up their doors. Of course, I didn't go in because I want to make sure we're keeping everyone safe. I stayed about 10 feet apart. I had a mask on my face. But, Joe, a lot of those conversations were in Spanish. And we talked about where the nearest early voting location was. Folks didn't know, that the deadline to vote early was Friday. So I was very grateful that I got to be there at their doors. Cuando encontramos nuestros vecinos y estamos hablando sobre las elecciones y la importancia de votar, ¿qué es necesario decir o preguntar a nuestros vecinos?
Well, something I certainly want to mention is that the polls have Spanish options para las gentes que no hablan inglés. Pueden votar, tienen el idioma en español. Eso es muy importante. Pero necesitamos que los hispanos, las familias latinas, cooperen uno con otro y que se ayuden uno al otro, que salgan a votar. Es tan importante porque nuestro voto puede cambiar el futuro y va a cambiar el futuro de nuestras familias, especialmente aquí en Texas. Como les había dicho, necesitamos aseguros de healthcare for one. Es tan importante en nuestra comunidad, el bienestar de nuestras familias, y el voto nuestro puede ayudar para mejorar las cosas entre nuestras familias y amistades. Les pido que por favor no tengan miedo a salir a votar, no sean tímidos. Tenemos que ganar esta elección, porque es tan importante que nuestras vidas van a cambiar, pero no podemos hacer ese cambio si no votamos. Más que nunca es importante. Y como les dije, quisiera que los chamacos, la gente mediana salgan, no nomás vayan y voten, pero ayuden a sus parientes, a sus abuelos, a sus amistades, que en muchas ocasiones, como no hablan inglés o no lo entienden bien, tienen miedo salir a votar, no van a votar por esa razón. Pero si los medianos, los estudiantes, tienen un rollo tan importante que partir en esta ocasión, queremos que ayuden a todas esas personas, porque nuestra salud, nuestros trabajos, los sueldos de nuestros trabajos, los empleados, necesitamos ayuda. En la mejor manera de conseguir esta ayuda es a través del voto. El poder del voto es muy grande, pero lo tenemos que usar, porque si no lo usamos, de nada nos sirve. So we need to use the power of the vote to change things for the future, for the immediate future, for ourselves, for our family, for the next generation. So es muy importante que, por favor, ustedes que ya votaron pueden ayudar a otros. Y si no han votado, por favor salgan a votar. Recuerden, early voting is over Friday. So we need to take advantage of that time and please get out there and help someone vote. Again, I keep going back to the Hispanic community because as I mentioned earlier, conozco muy bien a mi gente y sé que necesitamos ayuda en muchas ocasiones. Y lo más importante es no tener miedo, salir a votar. No tengan miedo porque el miedo que debemos de tener es que si perdemos esta elección, then that's the fear we should have of losing the election. Don't be afraid about going to the polls. Don't be intimidated. The fear that we should have is losing the vote. I mean, the election. We don't have to. We can win this election, but we have to vote. We have the numbers. We have the numbers in Texas, and the Latino community now is what, 32 million strong that can vote. Jesus, we got to take advantage of those numbers and use the power of the vote to change things for the better.
I'm with you. I'm with you. You know, I firmly believe that Texas has the power to decide the outcome of this election nationally and the future for our country. And within Texas, the Latino community has the opportunity to decide who will win that election. There are, Joe, I know you know this, more than 5.5 million eligible Latino voters just in the state of Texas. This is a majority minority state where Latinos represent 42% of the population. In my hometown of El Paso, 85% of the community. In the Rio Grande Valley, 90 to 95% of the community. And you think about that voting power. And if Latinos were to turn out in record numbers this year, this state, and frankly, the Latinos within this state would be the most important element of the electorate in the country. That is the power that Latino voters represent in America right now. And, you know, I mentioned this to the people who are watching this earlier, but, you know, Joe is not coming out late to the party in 2020. Joe was there in 2017, 2018. Joe was there when I remember when a really good friend of mine and a mentor to me, Senator Elliott Shapley, was running for state senate in El Paso, Texas. I remember Joe being out there in the lower valley, now they call it the Mission Valley of El Paso, Texas. This would have been in the late 1990s, helping to organize and to turn people out. And also, you know, here's something that's been missing from politics for a lot of people for too long. Joe has brought joy and happiness. And, you know, somebody, I just saw a comment from Patsy Houston who said, my parents used to dance to Joe. You know, there's something, you know, politics does not have to be completely serious and sober and even, you know, angry sometimes. It can be full of joy and families coming together and people enjoying one another's company. And I don't know anybody who embodies that better than Joe does. So you've been at this for a while. You mentioned you've been playing music since 1960. Texas last voted for a Democrat for president in 1976. Joe, tell us a little bit about how you've seen the state change in the last 40 to 50 years. What's different about Texas today than when you first started playing music here?
I think one of the most important things that has happened is that like I keep staying with the Latino community, but because I'm so sure that those numbers can make the change happen. But education, for one. I'm a seventh grade dropout, so I know the importance of an education because I don't have one. But I've been so fortunate in my life of having befriended so many people from different walks of life, and, you know, educators and politicians and just all kinds of people. And that's been an experience for me and a learning experience for me. So I get a lot of inside information that maybe some other musicians don't, or don't care, entertainers that may not want to focus outside of the entertainment field. But for me, it's important. And the biggest change I think that has transpired since I got on the road and met all these families throughout the years is education. And that's why I'm such an advocate for public the more we get educated, as Americans, the better we're going to make the country. And we need to make those changes to take place in Texas, all over the country. But when I say make the changes, is change the fact that 58% of COVID-related deaths in Texas are Hispanics. That's a lot of people dying from COVID, and you know, education plays a big part within our health, in our lives. If we're educated, we understand what to do and how to take care of ourselves better. Education is next to our health, is so important, but we need the education to stay healthier, and that's one of the main things I think that has changed. The Latino community get involved in politics. I'm so proud of the Castro brothers. I knew their mom. I've known their mom before they were born. We marched together for Raza Unida, Rosie and I, and others, of course. But I'm so proud, and you know, that's education outside of their just talented guys. They're beautiful guys, and they're very talented, and they're go-getters. But I really doubt that they would have achieved all they have without an education. So I think that's what transpired since I've been on touring and watching what were kids and children back then become grandparents now. And the more we push for a better education for our families, the better we're going to do in the future, the better the country's going to do.
I agree with you. And, you know, on the Castro brothers, I love everything that you said about them. And in addition to them being the beneficiaries of great education through the schools, and certainly through their mom, who is an organizing hero and a justice hero and a civil rights hero across the state of Texas, they've also worked to provide educational opportunities for others. And I think about Julian Castro as mayor of San Antonio, doing pre-K for SA and making sure that pre-K was as available as possible to every resident of the San Antonio community, to make sure that, you know, your ability to ensure that your child has a great education is not dependent on what side of the tracks you live on, or how much money you make, or your fortune, or luck, or any of that. That it's just something that you can that you can count on, and that it's good not just for you and your family and your kids, and it's certainly good for you and your family and your kids, but it's good for the entire community, because when everyone's level of education rises, then the entire community benefits. And I think that they've been real leaders on that, on the local level, and certainly on the national level as well. Joe, one of the reasons I was so excited that you were willing to spend a little time with us today, as you know, because you've helped to fire up our volunteers in the past. We have so many thousands of volunteers out there who are making phone calls to Texas voters. Some of them are actually knocking on doors of Texas voters, and some are texting Texas voters right now. We've made more than 50 million voter contact attempts this year. What message do you have for the volunteers who, in addition to voting, in addition to, as you said, talking to their family members and spreading the word, are actually out there getting in touch with complete strangers to make sure that they vote in this election? Do you have any words of encouragement for them? Because we have a big phone bank tonight where we're going to be calling all across Texas, and would love for them to hear a message from you.
Well, I personally want to say muchas gracias, well done, and continue to be volunteers. But you know, there's something special about people that volunteer. You know, they're kind, giving people to take time out of their lives to volunteer to help others. That's a certain kindness that not everybody possesses, I'm sorry to say, but those that do, and they're kind enough to help others. And helping others is great, but it's even better and greater. It's the bestest when it's voting time and you volunteer to help others to the polls. And so I'm totally, totally grateful for, whatever it's worth de parte de Little Joe. Estoy muy agradecido y contento que los voluntarios que ayudan a otros salir a votar es tan importante that we owe you, and the best way that others that don't volunteer can sort of kind of pay you back just a little bit of repay is to vote yourself. But volunteers, mil gracias, because things don't happen without volunteers. I think that's how our country started, through volunteers. Uh, so we need all the help we can get from the volunteers, and we need to respect and appreciate all the work that they do. It's not easy. That's why not everyone volunteers. But these are folks with a big heart, just kind people. And their kindness can only be repaid at this time by winning this election.
You said it so well, and Joe, we owe you a debt of gratitude as well for everything that you're doing in this year for this, and I agree with you, the most important election of our lives, but everything that you've done every year before this one. And again, I mentioned it earlier, you brought so much joy to so many, but you've also connected that to our opportunities and responsibilities to engage civically in the democratic process, in elections, to make sure that votes are counted and voices are heard. And you've been so strong. And when folks ask me, how in the world did Texas suddenly become this state that's competitive and that could vote for Biden and might even be blue? I say it's not suddenly. There have been people like Joe and others who've been working at this for a very, very long time. And Joe, one of the things I love about you is you never force it on people. You don't push a point of view or even a political party. I think you listen to, you engage with people, and you remind us that we've got to be good to one another. And you represent the kindness and compassion and empathy that we want more of in this country. And I think that so many of us see in Joe Biden and other Democrats up and down the ballot. And so we want to thank you. You are the bestest of all of us. And I hope that we get a chance to talk again before this election, which it's hard to believe, but is 5.5 days away. We're almost, it was 6 days away this morning, and now the day's almost behind us. And I know you're doing everything you can. We're doing everything we can, but we cannot thank you enough. And we're looking forward to the next time we get to visit with you. But please accept the gratitude of all of our Powered by People volunteers, and really everyone across this state and country whose lives have been made better because of you.
Well, that's very, very kind of you to say, Beto. I appreciate your kind words. But sincerely, I feel obligated, and I know it's my responsibility. And I first voted back in the 60s, late 60s, right? Well, the civil rights the marches were going on, and they still are today. But I can guarantee you one thing for those first voters, if you feel anything like I did, I felt so proud casting my vote, understanding the power of the vote. And I felt so American. It was, I voted today, and it was like proof of me being an American. And I love this country. I love the people. And here in my older years, my old age now, I've come to realize what all these thousands of concerts that I performed, there's always a high energy of happiness, but a lot of love and I'm beginning to understand that's what's propelled me and kept me going. The love of the people, the energy, the fun, people come sing, dance, cry, and all in one, evening. But the love is so incredible, and I've felt it as I gotten older. I felt it more and more, and I try to return it. And as I said, I feel obligated and responsible for making this country better. And no matter what I do in life, I know that one of the best things, probably the bestest thing I can do, is vote. So I hope that those volunteers out there will continue to do the work that some of us are not able to for whatever reason. But un millón de gracias to the volunteers and to the voters. And especialmente a mi gente, please, again, les pido que por favor no tengan miedo. Do not be afraid to get out and vote. Y si no pueden hablar inglés, hablen in Chinese. It doesn't matter. Use sign language, whatever. But please cast your vote and help this country become a better country, because it's always been the greatest country. We just got to make it greater. As I keep saying, we got to make it the bestest.
I love it. Joe, we have a lot of love for you, and the love that you feel that has propelled you all these many years is the love that you give back to all of us that makes our lives better. And we are so grateful that you spent this time with us today. Please be safe, stay healthy, and give our love to your family, who have also been just unbelievably supportive and encouraging to all of us along the way. We miss you, and we cannot wait till we see you again.
Gracias.
Be well.
I think Christy wants to say hello and just
Please, yeah.
Hey.
and my granddaughter
Good
who
to see
handles
you.
all the technology around here.
Hi.
Hi.
Nice to
You
meet
guys are
you.
the best. And thank you when we first came out to Temple, Texas, for welcoming us out there. And then I remember we got on our very first visit, you sent us some advice on how we could do better. And I remember specifically you reached out to me and Cynthia and you said, you know what? We love how many people came out. I wish that the attendance at your event looked more like the community, and you need to be more intentional about reaching out to Latinos in the community, to Black voters in the community, and we did that, and we followed your guidance, listened to you, and you made us a much better campaign and made me a much better candidate. So we owe you one, and we're grateful to you all. So please keep taking care of Joe.
We will. We will.
Bye-bye.
See you at the end.
Bye.
See you at the end. I love it. Bye-bye.